Hey, how you doing this morning? I am Taquila Coleman, best-selling author, God ordained marriage coach, and founder of GodOrdainedMarriage.com. I wanted to jump on here real quick. I am going to answer a question that was sent in by one of our Academy members. But before I answer the question, I want to remind everyone at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. At noon, we are having Jen, our special guest Jen. She's going to come on our God Ordained talk show and share her testimony, okay? How she used to be an ex psychic medium and how, God saved her. So, everyone, make sure you join the live at 12 noon p.m. At Eastern Standard Time, okay? And another thing I want to remind everyone, for those of you who want to learn how to create multiple streams of income, our Create Wealth 6-week program, it is launched. I'm going to show you exactly how to take your skills, gifts, and abilities and how to turn them into multiple streams of income, okay? So you can find more information about the Create Wealth 6-week program over at godordainedmarriages.com/wealth. Okay. Now, let's get into today's topic. Hey, Melissa, Ava, Destiny, Leah, thank you all for joining this morning. Um, for whatever reason, they've decided to cut the grass right when I go live. So you might hear some noise in the background. Just ignore it. Okay, just excuse it. But we're gonna go ahead into this Q&A. And if this is your first time catching me live, welcome. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure we are liking the live video, and let's get into the Q&A. So here's the question. This is for one of our Academy members. She sent it in. I thought it was a great question, and it's a question we need to talk about. She said, when does God reveal to the standing spouse the prodigal's purpose assignment during this standing process? I know in stage 8, the standing spouse should already be in their assignment, but at what point does God reveal the prodigal's assignment purpose? So, thank you for your question. Let's start with the first question. She's asked, when does God reveal to the standing spouse the prodigal's purpose, assignment during the standing process? So God can reveal to the standing spouse, your prodigal spouse's purpose or assignment at any time. Okay. It's all about how in tune you are with the spirit. It's all about, um, if you're discerning, if you had that spirit of discernment, um, it boils down to you because God revealed my person purpose and assignment the first year. And the way how God revealed it to me, at first it was through observation. I'm the type that would sit back and observe an individual, right? And while I was observing, my person, I can automatically see, the calling that's on his life. So I was already picking up, okay, like his purpose, his calling, his assignment, right? I was seeing things that he has yet to even know that God has called him to. So know that in your observation of your prodigal spouse, God can be downloading or even showing you vision of what is to come for this particular purpose. Another thing, God gave me a dream. I believe it was the first year. If it wasn't the first year, it was the second year. But he given me a dream. Um and I knew when I woke up from that dream that I was not to share with my person what his purpose or calling, you know, um, is because God wanted to lead him into getting his own revelation, right? So at any time, God can reveal to the God ordained believing spouse, the standing spouse, your prodigal spouse's purpose and assignment. It's just going to boil down to you, your discernment. If you are observing things, if you are in tune with the spirit and what God is speaking to you and showing you, right? Um, because that's how it played out with me. And that's how I am really with a lot of people. I can be coaching a person and automatically pick up where God is taking them. And I begin to speak that into their life. So just know anytime throughout this process, God can reveal to you your God ordained prodigal spouse's assignment purpose. Let's go into this next question. You said, I know in stage 8, the standing spouse should already be in their assignment. But at what point does God reveal the prodigal's assignment purpose? This is a great question. Okay. So, can you all hear me? Let me know if y'all can hear me. I'm gonna put on my headphones while you are letting me know if you can hear me. Because I do know they are outside cutting the grass. Okay, so I just connected the microphone. Can you hear me? Is the microphone working okay? Okay, cool. All right. So, going back to the question, um, what point does God reveal the prodigal's assignment and purpose? So here's the thing, because I got to break this down because we're all dealing with different, prodigals, right? Everyone's prodigal, they don't know their purpose. Everyone's prodigals, you know, um, they are in different seasons of their life. So I got to really break this down to bring clarity to it. So there are prodigals who are already in leadership position, right? But they are lacking identity. They lacking character. They lacking knowledge about their heavenly Father. They may be in these leadership position, right? They could be a CEO. They could be a minister. They could be a pastor or a bishop, right? Um, they could even, have started their own business. However, even though they are in these leadership position, they are lacking the very thing that's going to keep them in this position. Think of Saul in First Samuel. He was the people's choice. God, went on ahead because the people wanted a king. He went on ahead, chose Saul, and put him as king. However, Saul had a people pleasing spirit. Saul was very disobedient to the Lord. Okay, and that whenever we are disobedient, it boils down to heart issues, like issues of the heart, and it also resonate with a lack of character. Okay, so we have prodigals who are in these leadership positions. However, they are lacking identity or character, or and I say this all the time, and I know it's hard for a lot of people to believe this, but okay, it's better with the mic. Okay, great, thank you. I say this all the time, but we have a lot of people who are pastors and bishops, but they never met God. They read the Bible, but they never encountered God before. They never heard his voice before, right? And that's dangerous when you are in that position and you never encounter God in this way. You never heard the voice of God, or you're not aware that God move and operate this way, or he can do this way, right? That's very dangerous because that means you would now place restrictions on God. That's when that religious mindset, that religious spirit would come upon this person, right? So we have a lot of that going on with these prodigals. They never met God. They never experienced him before. And then we have prodigals who are in these leadership positions, but they got a cold heart. They don't have a heart for the people who God placed under their care, right? So in one sense, we got these prodigals, like how I said, they in these leadership position, but they lacking the inner things, that they lacking the character, the very thing that's needed to keep them in these positions. This is why you see a lot of leaders falling. This is why a lot of leaders are being exposed right now because they lacking character. They didn't go through their process. See, talent will get you to that position, but it's character that's going to keep you in the position, right? So that's number one. We got prodigals, like I said, they are in these positions, these leadership position, but they lacking what's needed to keep them there. Then we have prodigals who they may be in their career, and you probably have even heard your prodigal say, I believe, I'm called to be a pastor, or I believe, I'm called to mentor men, right? But they in their career, they might have a nice career, but they hear God speaking to them, calling them, into ministry, but they have yet to step into it for their own reasons. Okay, keep that in mind. Okay, so number one, we got prodigals who are in leadership position, but they lacking character. Number two, we have prodigals who are, they are in their career and they hear the calling of God, but they still haven't stepped into it, right? And then number three, we got prodigals who are unaware that there's a calling on their life, right? And they just going through the motion, you know. They just trying to figure it out, winging it day by day, right? So we got a variety of different prodigals we're dealing with here. Okay. So when we talk about at what point does God reveal the prodigal's assignment and purpose, I need y'all to really hear me on this. And this is going to bring a lot of understanding and clarity into why we see these counterfeits. It's going to bring a lot of clarity into why your prodigal is struggling with this lust, the spirit of lust. Okay. One of the things I do know for a fact that God is doing, He is hitting the reset button in this world. He is, okay, a lot of us, the believing spouse and the prodigal spouses, once they go through their process, God is raising up a new generation of men and women who's going to teach the next generation, okay, how to be, women of God, men of God, because there's a lot of brokenness in this world. So I'm gonna speak from when I break this down, I'm gonna talk from a prodigal husband standpoint because this is what I know what God is doing and what He's after. And I talked about this last night on our Q&A. But because we have a lot of men in this world who can't identify a wife, right? They don't have the wisdom on how to identify a wife, which is why they run behind Jezebel. Okay? Because we have a lot of men in this world who were raised and taught boys don't cry. So now they suppress their emotions. They disregard their own feelings. Okay. They are in relationship being disrespected and abused, but and they stay in it because of how they were raised. Okay. So basically the world has raised broken men. Okay. Um, it's a lot of stuff going on. Our men, not all of them, but majority, we don't even see our man protecting women. Okay, they have come off their post. They're not praying anymore. They have drifted away from God. And so the reason why you see or you're dealing with a prodigal husband who is going after counterfeit, after counterfeit, after counterfeit, and you see them leading with their you see the lust of the flesh, right? The reason why this is, see, God is allowing all of this to take place because in order for God to reveal your prodigal spouse's assignment, they got to first get a testimony. This is how purpose and assignment is revealed. It's revealed through your testimony. So God is allowing your prodigal to go because they're given over to shameful lust, right? So you're going to see your prodigal running behind all these counterfeits, right? But it's going to come a point of time where they're going to stop and they're going to get revelation because even in all of this, God is healing. He's bringing correction. He's delivering them. He's doing all these things, but they're going to get a revelation as they begin to grow that this type is no good for me, right? They're going to start getting revelation as God begin to speak to your prodigal about you and your prodigal. See, this is what y'all don't know. Your prodigal husband, as God is speaking to him concerning you, in the background, your prodigal husband is comparing you to this counterfeit. And now they're able to see the difference. Now, and in them seeing the difference, God is speaking to your prodigal husband. This is what a wife is by highlighting you. And this is why God is telling you, the believing wife, operate this way. Loyalty, love, respect. Because God is advocating on your behalf and he's teaching your prodigal through observation. This is a wife. What you're running behind, that's just a woman. Okay. He's teaching because this is one of the things our man is lacking in this world. They don't have the wisdom to identify a wife, which is why they run it behind their preference. Okay. So as your prodigal husband get that revelation, right? That's like a check mark up under his testimony. Okay. It's kind of hard to explain, but I'm gonna try my best to break this down. Then, as God is encountering your prodigal during this process, right? God can encounter your prodigal in dreams. He can give them their own personal encounter by removing people out of your prodigal spouse's life, or um, even through judgment. When they start losing things, they are getting revelation. This is God doing this, right? So even while God is encountering your prodigal, this encounter is now revealing to your prodigal God is real, and God see what I'm doing, and God, just like He give, He takes away, right? Remember, I said we got a lot of prodigals who are in leadership position, but they never met God. They never heard His voice. So now that they are prodigal, God is showing up and speaking to them in their dreams. They might have vision, right? They might, all these different ways God is interacting with your prodigal. He's giving them their own personal encounter because God wants them to know, I am real and I am your heavenly Father, and I see what you're doing, and you have gotten off track, and I'm gonna bring you back home, right? So as I'm explaining these different, scenarios, I need y'all to understand purpose and assignment is revealed through your prodigal in the process. It's not going to be just a one day your God just dropped their purpose and assignment. No, because what we're dealing with here, some majority of these prodigals, they know they called to ministry. They know this. They know they call, um and everyone not called to ministry, but they know, what their purpose and assignment is. The question becomes, well, why they not stepping in it? It's because they know they are lacking. Okay. They know there's a lack on the inside of them. They know, for some of them, they can already be in these leadership positions, but they know they're not living right. They know they all up in the church fornicating, right? They know, they know what's going on, and so like how I said, we got some of them, they are in these positions, but they lacking the character. Then we got others who know God is calling them to it, but they hesitant on stepping into it. And that hesitation is because they got fears, they have insecurity, they don't feel good enough for it, they don't know if they qualified, right? So this is what, right, double life. This is what God is doing during this process. Okay. He is, with every correction, okay, is building your protocol for where God is taking them. So going back to, because I want to say it this way, like I was saying, I know one of the things God is doing, He's raising up the next generation of men and women. Okay. And for some of you, your prodigal husband, they are going to be speaking to the next generation of men, but they can't speak to this next generation of man. Your prodigal husband can't teach another man how to be a man if he first don't know what it means to be a man. So this is what God is doing. In this process of divine separation, while your prodigal is a prodigal, God is giving him revelation. This is what it means to be a man. Because in the past, whoever raised your prodigal husband, he could have been taught wrong. He could have been taught what makes you a man is the amount of money you have. What makes you a man is the amount of women you have up under your belt, right? What makes you a man is what you're wearing, right? The material possession. But God is stepping in and teaching. This is what manhood is about. This is healthy masculinity, not toxic masculinity, right? This is how you be vulnerable. This is how you communicate. This is a wife versus a woman, right? And while they're getting these revelations, it's also preparing them for their calling. This is why a lot of them haven't stepped into their calling because they don't know themselves. That when I say identity, when y'all hear me say, God is waiting on, like us to step into our identity. That's one of the things I'm talking about. He's waiting on prodigal husbands to get the revelation of what it means to be a man, masculinity, healthy masculinity versus toxic masculinity. This is what I'm talking about. So in this process, He's walking with them, He's teaching them things, and He's growing them and maturing them Because if they call to speak to the next generation of men, they gotta first get their own revelation and testimony. So while they are getting their testimony, while God is growing them, teaching them these things, they learning how to express themselves, they tap into their vulnerability, you know, um, they learning how to walk in self-control and self-discipline. Now when they step into their purpose and calling, they can speak to that. They can tell that other man, this is how you do it. Because this is the very thing that's not being taught today. And the same thing applies to the prodigal wife. She could be called to rebuild the next generation of women, but she has to learn what it means to respect a man. She has to learn, how do you love yourself as a woman. I can't speak to the next generation of women if I don't love me. You see, she got to learn standards. She has to develop boundaries so she could teach it to the next person. So, long story short, purpose and assignment is revealed to prodigals all throughout their process. Ever since God told you to start praying for your prodigal, God started working. God is correcting. Even in the correction, purpose and assignment is being revealed. Even in the healing, purpose and assignment is being revealed. When God deliver, your spouse out of the hands of the enemy, the evil spirits begin to disappear. Purpose and assignment is being revealed. If you're dealing with a prodigal's spouse who is a witch or a warlock, and once God restores them, once God reveals to your prodigal who is a witch or a warlock that God is more powerful than their witchcraft attack, you know they coming out with a testimony. You know they coming out with a testimony. God is going to use their testimony to take down the kingdom of darkness. I'm telling you, what God is doing during divine separation, what God is doing with these counterfeits, the reason why you see these counterfeits still in the picture, because he's waiting on your prodigal spouse to get more revelations. He's teaching your prodigal by allowing this counterfeit to stay in the picture. This is, for some of them, all counterfeit relationship isn't unhealthy. But for some of them, he's teaching them, this is a wife, by highlighting you, this is a woman. He's teaching them, this is toxicity. This is why you chose that, okay? Because of the brokenness in your past. You know, he's teaching, when your prodigal husband or wife, when they learn self-love, when they establish standards and boundaries, they can now look at the counterfeit and say, man, they don't even know, they don't even have standards and boundaries, right? All of this is revelation that is being given to your prodigal, right? So this stuff goes deep. It goes deep. But just know, purpose and assignment it is being revealed all throughout this process. The reason why we don't see the prodigal stepping in their purpose or calling is because a lot of them don't feel qualified. They don't feel like they have what it takes. And again, that's because of their weaknesses that are they dealing with on the inside. So God has to grow them throughout this process. He's teaching them, okay, you got a weakness. Okay, this preference is your weakness. It causes you to bow. Okay, so now God has to develop that. He got to turn that weakness into a strength by revealing to your prodigal, even though you like this type, even though this type is your preference, this type keep leading you into sin. This type is the very reason why you in poverty now. This type is the very thing that's pulling you away from me, God, right? And so they're going to get the revelation that type might look good to me, but nah, it's no good for me. And I'm speaking from experience here because I told y'all yesterday on our Q&A, I had a type. My type back, around 2013, my type was the bad boy type. hmm You know, I love, the ones who played the game with me. You give me that mind game, oh, I was falling in love with you, right? But I got tired of it. The light bulb went off when I attracted two children's father who both asked me for an abortion when I got pregnant. I said, wait a minute, I don't want to be attracted to this anymore. Right. So God was walking with me, teaching me, Taquila, you got to walk this thing out. When you hear, because I had to identify Mr. Wrong, right? I had to teach myself, this is Mr. Wrong. This is how he speak. This is language. He always want to Netflix and chill. He never want to go out. I had to really teach myself this stuff. These are the red flags. You don't entertain him. And this is what God is doing with your prodigal. Y'all don't see all of this because your prodigal, they not, of course, they're not gonna show it and they're not saying these things, but this is what's going on. And this is how they get in revelation. And so when your prodigal, um, when God grow them and mature them and they step in purpose and they mentor a man, they're going to be speaking to the man, letting the man know, hey, listen, I know that look good, but that's dangerous. If you follow after that, if you entertain that while you married, they can speak to it. You're gonna fall into sin, you're gonna commit adultery, this is what God is after. Hey D, thanks for joining us. So it's deep, so like how I said, God reveals the prodigal spouse's purpose and assignment. It's not like it could be like in a moment he just drop it on her, but no, what God is after, he's growing them. It's growth and maturity, because in the growth in the maturity you're getting revelation. That revelation is now turned into your testimony. Your testimony is the very thing that's going to give you the confidence to step in your purpose and assignment. You see, that's how this process is unfolding. Okay, so let me know if that makes sense. um, Let me know if that makes sense. And that, like how I was saying, that explains why these counterfeits are still in the picture. God is using them to teach, your prodigal what they don't know. He's using them, to develop that weakness into a strength. Let's see. You said you had a type too. Man, you give me that game. Oh my God, I was so attracted to you. And that's why now, I just get turned off. I can hear like a man can say two words to me and I can identify that's the wrong one. I already know who the right one is, but it's like, I don't got time for it. You said your type was your abuser. Wow. Yeah. 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 So just know, we that's why I keep saying God is after our testimony, you know. And even when you all on here, the believing spouse, you're called to, some of you are called to rebuild the next generation of men and women. And in this process, the reason why it's so hard is because God is giving you your testimony. He's bringing you into your own testimony. Some of you are learning boundaries and standards for the first time. You're going to need that to teach to whoever God is calling you to, because that's what they lacking. Whatever we go through, whatever your prodigal and whatever your prodigal spouse is going through throughout this process, whatever their weaknesses are, whatever challenges or difficulty they are being faced with, that's the very thing God is calling them to in the future. Okay. And so now this is real talk right here. She said, I never had a type. I just fell for any guy who gave me the attention I never had. And that's most women. Like if we're honest, that's most women, you know. And that goes right back to that father rule. See that the father rule, excuse me, fathers, are the ones who supposed to, speak worth into their daughters. And that could be a mother wound as well, because you were lacking attention, love, affection, et cetera, et cetera. But that's what we're dealing with a lot of women, you know. And that's why I always say when I'm answering these questions, don't listen to what that prodigal spouse saying out his mouth. They know what to say. They know, we fall in love with words. Don't listen to that. You look at their action, But that's one of the things God wants to heal in you, if He haven't already. That has to do with affection, that affectioning, and knowing how it shows up, how it manifests in you, so that you're not being led, because the enemy will use our own affection need against us, you know. So you could beat that enemy at his own game just by being in tune with it. But yeah, um, Yes, so I hope that answered the question. Let me look at it again. Um, and like how I was saying, because I was in tune, and I'm the type, I can hear, when I'm in session, I can hear you all telling me certain things, and I would get a vision, or I just pick up like, okay, this is the calling that's on this person's life. And that's how I was with my person. I could just look at him, I could hear his voice, or I could just see the calling that's on his life, and I could speak to it. But God can reveal to the standing spouse at any time your God ordained prodigal spouse's purpose and assignment. But when God reveals that to you, go back and ask God, do you want me to tell him or her? Because God just may want to lead them into that revelation on their own. Okay, you said, hold on, let me see something. You said mine told me that God showed him I was his wife. Then, right before our divine separation, he told me that he wasn't the one for me. But I know this is who God showed me. Yeah, he said that because you are his wife, and he know you're his wife. However, the reason why he said he's not the right one for you is because it was whatever's going on the inside of him. He could have been filled with lust, right? And he's like, in his mind, that's how he's interpreting it to you. I'm not the right one for her. She need a man who's going to commit and be faithful to her. And when he look at himself, he like, I don't even have that desire to be faithful or committed. And I'm just being honest. This is how they communicate that. Just like last night, the young lady was saying her spouse told her he's the problem. They telling us the truth. They're telling us the truth. We just got to understand what exactly are they saying when they say these things. They know, our men and women, they know they lacking certain things on the inside. And um I learned this a long time ago. When we're talking about a man want to change for the better, sometimes he don't know how to change. He don't know how to bring about that change, right? And so that's where God sent us in. He like, get on that prayer post. Go ahead and pray your spouse through. Help him become better. Yeah. Yep. This process will reveal other prodigals to you. You can have a prodigal son, a prodigal father. Hmm. Yeah. And you see what I mean? See, she just said it right here. She said, I remember my prodigal once told me he had a vision dream of me praying in a war room, but I never looked into it because he told me he never encountered God. So that's hard to trust, right? And that's most men. I'm telling y'all, they won't say this out their mouth. Your pastor won't say this out their mouth that they really don't know God, but yet they're in this position as a pastor. I'm telling you, because you can't see God. And if you had a hard life, a hard upbringing, a hard childhood, if your parents abandoned you and rejected you or abused you or gave you away, they giving you up, for adoption, you like it ain't no God in this world. That's the mindset you take. If there's no God in this world, why would God allow me to go through this, right? And they don't say this because they don't want to be seen a certain way. I was very honest with God before God encountered me. I was very honest, and I went to God. This was 2017. And I said, God, because my father side of the family, they the ones who go to church. And he was the one who got me, in church. But I said, God, I said, I don't want to know you just based off of what I'm seeing my father do in church and their testimony. I said, I want to know you for myself. I want my own personal testimony. I want my own interaction with you. I want to know you're real. I said, so make yourself real to me. I was like, encounter me. And I kid you not, he sure did. I didn't like the way how he gave me that encounter, but he encountered me in ways that reveal he's real. So check this out. She said, that's true what you're saying. He even went back to the counterfeit who happened to be his ex-wife and mother of his child. So he went back because he got unfinished business. Okay. That's an ex-wife. So he was married to this woman. It ended in divorce. It don't matter who cheated or why it ended in divorce. The fact that he, as the man, okay, the head, that marriage ended in divorce, that created a wound. That's making him feel like a failure. He had unfinished business. That's why he went back. It could be an unhealthy soul tie, that the feeling like a failure. it, you might want to begin to look at what is his relationship like with his own father, because that might be it might be a connection there, you know. And something as simple as, if your prodigal spouse was married before, if your prodigal husband was married before, and that marriage ended in divorce, that's enough to make that man say, I'm not getting married again, because that hits at his self-esteem, his ego. Okay, it makes him feel like a failure in his mind. When he's interacting with his God ordained, he's like, I know you're my wife. I would love to marry you, but I don't know. You know, he got these fears, these insecurities, creeping up on the inside of him. So God got to take him through his process. Why does my prodigal get so emotional when it comes to me, but doesn't really give me affection? Because he don't know how to. He's probably not even in tune with his emotion. If he don't know how to, if he doesn't, if he's not aware, because men have affection need as well. It just shows up differently. If he's not in tune with his emotion, if he, wasn't raised to give affection, hugging or holding hands, or even just sitting down to talk to you, he can't give it to you. This is what I'm talking about. So God has to take him through his process of helping him to get in tune and in touch with his own emotions. God has to peel back those limited beliefs that was ingrained in him, telling him, you know how they say, "Oh, that's mushy." I be joking with my son. Look, I got an 18-year-old son, and when he would be on the phone, I walk past his room and I'd say, "You in there caking, huh?" So I be playing with him, right? But stuff, even saying stuff like that, could create a wound in a child. It could make him become embarrassed, just from being all mushy and stuff on the phone. But he doesn't get emotional with you because he's not in touch with his emotions. So that's a prayer point. God help him to be in touch with his emotion, because scriptures say it commands the husband to live with your wife in an understanding way. It say, husband, do not be harsh with your wife, right? But how do you do that if you were raised to not show your emotion, right? You were basically raised to hate yourself. You were basically raised to reject yourself, and that's it got to stop. You see, so God has to take him through his process of getting in touch and in tune with his own emotions. He got to reveal to him, because he need affection, but he got to reveal to him, it's not weak because you desire companionship or whatever, from a woman. Who was the first wife? I don't know. And let me just say this, because I get this comment a lot. Just because you get married and it ended divorce, and then you find yourself standing for a God ordained marriage. Over here at God ordained marriage, we don't believe in that. You bound to that first spouse for life. Because there's a such thing such as you putting yourself in a marriage God didn't ordain for you to be in. And then we also have God ordained marriages. So I just want to say that, because I don't believe in that over here, and I got scripture to back that up. He said a counterfeit man, a mother, his kids, we as the standards don't manipulate our kids' father, but the counterfeit uses her. You know, I probably won't do no no lessons on this. Um, because stuff like this, when you're dealing with a prodigal who has kids with the counterfeit, it's co-parenting. It's co-parenting with firm boundaries, like clear boundaries. But your husband, your prodigal husband, he's the one who God has to grow and mature and move into a place where he's able to now give this counterfeit, he got a co-parent with these boundaries. Okay. I don't have, like, I got children by, different men. I don't go through this. We have clear boundaries. We got clear standards. Okay. I don't go through this stuff. It goes back to, you gotta have it's just co-parenting. You gotta have certain things in place. Um, you know, yeah, God is gonna turn Saul into Paul. He is. If you're dealing with the spirit of Saul in your prodigal, yep, that spirit is going to kill itself. It probably is, Katie. She said, my prodigal is crying out to God and apologizing for his decision, but he is also afraid of hurting me again, and says he so let's stop right there. We ain't gonna run through this. He is also afraid of hurting me, so he's not done going through his process. He's still aware. Yes, God has corrected me. Yes, I'm getting some revelation, but I still got some more evil in me. I still have the potential to hurt her. Okay, that's what that means. Um, and then you say he never wants to ever do that. I think it is keeping him from coming back. It is. He might be up under guilt and shame. He's not sure how you see him. After all this hurt and pain. That translates into respect. Does she still respect me as a man? Yeah, he's bowing down to another God. So know that in this situation, God, you just be obedient to divine separation, because he's bowing down to another God, and he's an enemy to God right now. No, that's not true, Amber. That's not true. She said, I was reading that second marriages don't make it because of the first wife. No. See, you could read that, but they don't tell you that they never went to counseling. You see, they never went to counseling after that first marriage failed. They never got revelation. They never received healing. That's why when they try to do it a second time, it fails. You see, I was married. I was married, when I was, what, 21. Okay. I'm God has processed me. Okay. So I already know my second marriage will last for a lifetime. You know, so just make sure when you read that stuff, they also put in there the work they was doing or didn't do that would speak to why it failed. When does the prodigal find out the counterfeit is a witch? When they start getting knowledge on. See, here's the thing. Because the danger, where's not the danger? The signs could be there that your prodigal is with a kind of, I mean, a witch. But if he don't believe in that stuff, he's still gonna overlook it. So God has to grow him into the belief that there are witches and warlocks on the dark side. And then once he grow him into that belief, then he got to get him the knowledge on this stuff to know what to look for, which would now help him to believe I'm with a witch. You see, because I had no knowledge on witchcraft until I got into this God ordained love story. I didn't know anything. I knew the term, but I didn't know this stuff was real. So God had to give me firsthand experience in it. You said when he experienced warfare, he comes to me for help. and information, but when he is fine, he acts like Christ didn't help him. So you know how scriptures say when a man finds a wife, he receives favor from the Lord. He's showing you, he's coming to you because he know you equipped for spiritual warfare. That's your favor. That's one of the ways how your favor shows up. And because you know that this is a pattern with him, he come to me, for help. I helped him, but then he turned around and act like Christ, didn't help him through it. This is now about to come back to me. I'm not gonna keep on allowing you to use my God. Okay, so I'm gonna value my favor. I'm gonna keep my spiritual warfare knowledge to myself. Okay, and I'm gonna let you continue to go through it. Since you want to continue to act like Christ didn't help you, I'm gonna continue to let you burn in that fire. See, we gotta understand, and realize how our favor comes across, so that when your prodigal spouse reaches out to you for help or for your favor, you don't give it to him. You just gave him his release. So now he's like, okay, I'm good. Now he back, acting like Christ don't exist. Now they back with counterfeit. Don't give him that release. Make him sit in it. What does that scripture read? 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Read the whole thing. And then read it for understanding. Okay, let's see. Yeah, book a one-on-one session. That would be nice to hear more on that. The first minute. Just read it. Look. Let me open up this Bible. I ain't I wasn't coming on here to do no teaching. So let's go to 1 Corinthians. Hold up. If you go to this is the point that I was making. 1 Corinthians chapter 7 is up under the marriage section. 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Let me see. Where is it? Where it started? Let's start at verse 10. To the married, now read out the NIV. It says, to the married, I give this command, not I, but the Lord. So this is Paul. So the Lord is giving this command. A wife must not separate from her husband. And this is concerning the God ordained marriage. So when God joins this marriage together, God is saying a wife must not separate from her husband. Okay. But if she does, she must remain unmarried or else be reconciled to her husband. And a husband must not divorce his wife. So this scripture right here is speaking to God ordained marriages, not the marriage I put myself in. Not the marriage God kept giving you all the signs not to, marry. Not that. The marriage God joins together, he said basically, do not separate, do not get a divorce. Now, when you read verse 12, it say to the rest. Now it's speaking to these marriages some of you all have put yourself in, and God wasn't in it. Like my first marriage, God wasn't in that. I threatened that man. I was like, because we were dating for a long time, and I was like, I just got up one morning. We were in the kitchen, and I turned to him and I said, "You think I'm gonna be your girlfriend for what 8 more years?" I said, "You better marry me. I want to get married." And I kid you not, the next 6 months I was married. I did that. Okay, so verse 12 it say to the rest. I say this. So this is Paul. Okay, saying this, not God. It say, I, not the Lord. If any brother has a wife who is not a believer, and she is willing to live with him, he must not divorce her. And if a woman has a husband who is not a believer, and he is willing to live with her, she must not divorce him. Verse 14. For the unbelieving husband has been sanctified through his wife, and the unbelieving wife has been sanctified through her believing husband. Otherwise, your children will be unclean, but as it is, they are holy. Now, listen to this, verse 15. But here we go. We talking about you're not bound to that person you put yourself in that marriage with. Verse 15. But if the unbeliever leaves, let him do so. A believing man or woman is not bound in such circumstances. God has called us to live in peace. So there you go. But that's talking about the marriages God didn't choose for you. If you're the believing spouse and your unbelieving husband, this is a marriage God didn't join together, that that's not the spouse God chose for you. If that unbelieving husband or wife want a divorce, according to scripture, you're not bound to stand with them. You can get them a divorce. Live with them in peace. But if it's a God ordained joining together marriage, God said work it out. He don't want no separation. He don't want no divorce. Okay? So you said you threatened your ex-husband. You see the stuff we put ourselves in, D. Oh Lord. I threatened the mess out that man. He was like, I'm gonna marry you. I was married. I sure was in 6 months. All right, so listen. I gotta get ready for our 12 o'clock interview. Listen, meet me back here at 12 noon for our interview with Jen. She used to be a psychic medium. She's going to share her testimony, and we're going to have an amazing conversation. Okay, so have a great day. If you all want to book a one-on-one session, just head over to the site godordainedmarriages.com, click on coaching, and book your one-on-one session with me today. So with that, I'll see you all at 12 p.m. noon. Take care.